Oh, I regret ever deciding to do this now. No one got perfect pitch. Do you know what note that is? It's called productive procrastination. Look it up, because that was a mess. Was Winnie the Bish ever more relatable than in this scene? A few months ago, I asked you guys if you wanted me to make Glinda's crown from the new film or Elphaba's dress from the stage musical, and you all voted to see me curled up in a catatonic ball drowning in a sea of ruffles of my own making, so we are making Elphaba's dress. You have no idea what the past few weeks have been like trying to wrap my head around this project, trying to remember every single bit of material and embellishment that I need to try and pull this thing off. It has been a lot. Honestly though, thank you, because this was definitely the kick up the butt I needed to actually tackle something this scary. This is the usual part of the project where I take you through all of my materials. We are not doing that today. Here is why. And would you believe I still have 2 more that have yet to arrive? So I've done a bit of thrifting. I've managed to find loads of secondhand and dead stock fabrics. Some of these fabrics are just good and ready to use. Others I will be attempting to dye. Emphasis there on attempting, because I've never done that before. We're gonna give it a go. I even ordered a pot specially. For now, we're gonna focus on getting the foundation of the dress done, which is why I purchased some patterns. This morning I discovered that my printer was in fact out of black ink, so I had to spend ages messing around to turn both patterns into being green so I could print it out with my coloured ink instead. For the bodice I've gone with a high neck bodysuit pattern that I will then adjust accordingly. For the skirt I went with an Edwardian trumpet skirt. Now when you look at the stage musical dresses, there are actually loads of different versions. My favourite one definitely does have more of an Edwardian trumpet kind of shape to it, so I found a pattern that I do like. Might make a few tweaks to, but as a whole, this should be good. I then spent a few hours assembling and cutting out the paper patterns. Whilst I had the floor space, I cut the fabric pieces to make the trumpet skirt and then followed the instructions to construct it. This is where things kind of went out the window a little.
Sometime later.
Slight change of plan. I hated it. The Edwardian trumpet skirt just was not working for me. I think it's a really great pattern, and I think I'm definitely going to try and use that skirt for a future project, but for this specifically, it just felt off, and it felt like if I don't redo this now, I'm going to end up hating the end result. Luckily, I did have enough black fabric to just completely start again. I decided to go with a very simple half circle skirt, and I added a slight train onto the back of it. I haven't decided if I'm going to go back into this and add some darts just to try and shape it a little bit more. I realise this is just black fabric, so you're not really going to see much. We have an assembled skirt with a zip and a waistband. I also cut out all the pieces for the bodice. For the sleeves, I've decided to do a green base fabric with the black lace going on top of that, so that way when I actually wear this, I don't have to paint my arms green as well, and I'm going to do the same with the chest and neck area in the design too. I haven't assembled this yet because the green is very green screen green, so I want to try and dull it down a little bit in a dye bath, which brings us on to today's workload. We're going to be dyeing all of the fabric I bought for the ruffles on the skirt. There are a lot of colours on Elphaba's skirt. I've tried my best to pick up fabrics with interesting patterns and textures, so that way when it's cut up into the ruffles and then added onto the skirt, it will look really dimensional and interesting. Hopefully, when I do the dye bath, I'll be able to just dull all of these colours down so that they will look really good together on the skirt, and they'll have a dark kind of palette, but not so much that you can't see what colour they are anymore. I also still want some of the patterns on some of them to still show through as well. I've set up the kitchen ready, and I am very, very nervous to do this. You know, it's only just occurred to me, I still need to heat up the water, so this is going to be a while yet. 3 gallons. 3 gallons. 13.6 litres. It's occurring to me I'm going to have to lift this up now. 13. Flame on. Oh my god. I didn't actually think I'd be able to pick that up. Now we wait. I'm also supposed to have rubber gloves with this, but I don't actually think I have any because I didn't think about that. That's gonna be a while. I'm gonna go look for some.
A few minutes later.
I found some gloves. These are actually from Dan's Steve Harrington cosplay, but I'll get him some new ones.
One eternity later.
As I only needed to darken the fabrics and not fully dye them, I decided to dye 2 pieces at a time, and as per the instructions, you must continuously stir the forbidden rag soup. My brain just associates it with that broth from Nanny McPhee for some reason.
I wonder how long it will take for us all to dye.
After each dye bath, I had to rinse out the fabrics to remove excess dye water and then put them aside to be washed. Then it was on to the next batch, and the next, and the next. Unsurprisingly, as the day went on, my arms very much gave up on continuously stirring because they were killing me. The only one that didn't really work was the cream snakeskin pattern one, which just turned silver instead. These ones, however, turned out perfectly. Genuinely, I am so impressed. I'm very excited to put this together into the actual ruffles of the skirt now. I need to sit and cut all of these out into loads and loads of strips, which I'm just assuming is going to take me ages because tasks like that usually do. I have also ordered a ruffler foot. I've never used one before. I have yet to actually look into how they work. I'm going to watch a YouTube video on it in a bit, but that should be arriving later today. Plenty to get on with. Let's get out some fabric. Now this was a while ago, but if memory serves, I cut all of the strips to be about 2.5 inches thick. When I was actually assembling the skirt, I felt like it probably could have looked more accurate if I'd gone a little thinner on these, but equally that would have also taken me longer to add them on, so I don't exactly regret this choice. I have just this second finished cutting out all of the fabric and it has genuinely taken me all day. It is dark outside now. Oh my god, my back is killing me. As I built the skirt later on, I chose not to use 2 of these fabrics as the colour balance worked better without them. These are all the ruffles I have so far. This has taken me the entire morning. It is about midday right now. All of the black is done and I'm just about to move on to all the coloured fabrics. I have been using my ruffler foot. It did take me a while to figure out. Once I figured it out, I absolutely loved it right up until I broke it. It's not technically broken as much as I've just used it so much already. I've already kind of wore one of the parts down, which is great. It still technically works because the ruffle foots have settings where you could ruffle every 12 stitches, 6 stitches, or 1 stitch. I was doing it every 12 stitches. Unfortunately, the part that wore away means that I can now only do it every 1 stitch. So my solution for this has been... For the last hour now, I've been having it ruffle every 1 stitch, but I've been manually pulling the fabric through quite quickly, so that way it still is spacing them apart a little bit more, which is good enough at this point. Let's crack on. How are you all doing? I've been making ruffles for 6 hours now. I always knew this project was going to be a lot, but still. All of the black is done, I've done all of the blue, I've done all of the red, I have started on the purple, which is what I'm currently working on. I tried to do 1 strip of the gold, but that fabric was just not cooperating with me. So I think I'm gonna leave the gold maybe half an hour more to just finish off the last of the purple. I'm probably gonna curl up in a ball on the very comfortable looking bed of ruffles I have made across the floor and just cry in relief. Finally finished. This is either really comfy or I am just that tired. And she's getting up. I have multiple people asking me how much ruffling I've got left. Nothing, I'm done. I feel like the very nature of it means that I will have to start with the ruffles on the bottom and work my way upwards. From what I think I remember, the ruffles along the bottom are fairly along the circumference of the skirt, and then as you get to the top you have the ones that kind of triangle like that. I'm not sure at what point they transition though, so I need to check. I wish to just skip ahead to the future where I have this really cool skirt and I do not have to figure out how to do it. I really want to go out and play in the snow, but I need to work. But there's snow. Gather round, ye children, I will show you what I have done. I did decide to reshape the skirt and I'm very glad that I did it. I will admit my main motivation was thinking if I take out some of the volume to actually fit it down a little bit more, then it will use up less ruffles, and I really don't want to have to make more ruffles. I think the shape is looking a lot better now, which means it is time to move on to adding ruffles. I've been building up to this for about a week and I am still so nervous. I ran out of ruffle with that much of a gap left. Gosh darn it. Are you ready for a progress report? Because I don't think you are. I actually got a little bit emotional when I just put this on the mannequin. It makes me so freaking happy. It's fine, I'm not emotional, this is cool. I am for the most part still gonna work from the bottom up, but I feel like I need to start putting some of those defining swoops in, so I'm gonna go ahead and add the first ruffle that swoops all the way across. Good morning, fellow citizens. I don't know why I went Mayor Bourgeois with that.
Fellow citizens.
We'll go with it. Today we're on to the bodice. Granted, not because I've actually finished the skirt, but because I was just so excited to do the bodice. And calm. I'm trying so hard to not come across really annoying in this video. I am just so excited about every single stage of this. I've made the base. It didn't turn out perfectly. It was my first time using that pattern, and it did turn out pretty small. It's not so small that I'm gonna redo it. I'm just gonna live with the fact that I might just have to whenever I put it on. My next stage is I'm gonna start cutting the shape into the bottom. I'm also gonna iron all the seams at some point too. It does have sleeves, but those are gonna go on last. For the chest area, I've got some of the green fabric. I'm then gonna put some black lace over the top of that. For the actual more colorful part of the bodice down here, I bought this really cool colored velvet. I just bought 1 meter of this stuff, and it pretty much covers all of the color variations that you see in the bodice. The main difference is quite obviously that this is very uniform in its shapes. They're all very square. Because the bodice is just 90% hand stitching, this is going to take me days. What team? Wildcats. I've been watching High School Musical. Once the green and lace layers were pinned down, I put them through the machine, which was definitely not the easiest thing to maneuver. At this stage, I decided to add in the boning channels between the bodice seams too. I have now stitched down all of the green and lace panels. I did decide to double up the lace just because with only one layer it really didn't seem like there was enough black coverage on it. I was gonna go and start adding the multicolored bits on, but I'm sat here thinking, should I be adding the spiderweb bits now whilst it's flat? Because would that be harder to add when it's assembled? Also burning in the back of my brain. Here we have the sleeve pieces with only one layer of lace, so they will now no longer match the bodice piece. I have no more lace to add a second layer to this. I do, however, have just some plain black tulle fabric that I've tried testing layering over the green to see if I can get away with using that. It's definitely not great, but it seems better than just the single layer of lace, so I think I'm probably going to do that, which again, not ideal, but it's what I've got, so I will work with it. Side note, I dropped my chalk on the floor and it smashed. I'm really not happy about it. I am 1000% putting off sewing those spider webs onto the bodice by working on the skirt for a bit. It's called productive procrastination. Look it up. I have already logged many more additional hours of sewing ruffles onto this skirt. It is out of frame, granted, so you can't actually see my progress, but I promise you, it is there. I'm just about to start working on the back because I started to get concerned if I kept working my way from the bottom up that I wouldn't get the right shape in the back. So I've drawn that back on, and I did have to use an absolutely microscopic sized piece of chalk. I'm gonna start using some of my offcuts from the ruffles I've already sewn on to do these little pieces and put these in. I only really pinned the 2 pieces on. Those should be enough for me to use as a guide to get the right shape on the back, so it actually has that point down. The ones I was building up were definitely starting to go in the opposite direction, so I need to try and course correct. Just look at this solid mass of fabric I am trying to roll up and get through this machine. This is getting really difficult. I feel like I need to touch base with you all because I have been all over the map with this project. I've been working on the skirt again. It is about 80% of the way there. There's a little patch on the front and a little patch on the back. that I still need to fill in with ruffles. It's also getting really heavy to hold up now because the weight of the ruffles is kind of getting a bit extreme. So I'm thinking I might have to put some suspenders on the skirt that will then obviously go underneath the bodice so you won't see it has them, because I feel like that's too much weight to just sit on my waist. I'm not working on that today though. I will be jumping back onto the bodice because I've just decided to be uber chaotic today. This is about where we left it off. There are, as I've mentioned many times throughout this video, it's basically my catchphrase, multiple versions of this stage musical dress. One of my favorite versions has silver spiderweb embroidery going across the front of the bodice and across the sleeves as well, so I really want to include that element in my one. Some silver thread to give it a go. I'm gonna do it on the machine because it's gonna take way too long to do it by hand. I'm a little nervous about it. I haven't done any kind of machine embroidery for years. As it is just spiderwebs and that's just relatively straight lines, I have decided that I'm not going to do it properly and actually change it to the embroidery foot. The bodice has a second lace layer, and then for the sleeves I'm going to do a second layer just in a black tulle because I've got no more lace left. I'm very glad I decided to add that layer on because that's far better. I stitched around the edges of the sleeves to hold all the layers together before moving on to the embroidery. You are almost certainly not supposed to use thread like this in a machine, because whilst I was winding the bobbin up for the silver thread, it got a little tangled and then this happened. How do I get out of this mess? Oh my god, this stuff is the worst. Having these kinds of problems, just trying to wind the bobbin up, does not make me feel good about trying to actually use this in the machine. Oh my god, I don't think these spider webs are worth this. Oh, I regret ever deciding to do this now. This stuff is the actual worst. Okay, great. Okay, no. Nope, 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 nope. We're just gonna cut all of you off and you're all going in the bin because you're not even worth trying to salvage. I'm gonna test this on some scrap fabric really quickly, and if it doesn't work, we are forgetting about this idea because it's not going well. That didn't turn out awfully. I'm actually pretty impressed with how well it went in the machine. The question is it just too standout-y in silver to actually look good? Like if I show it from a distance, it does stand out quite a bit. The sample made me very not confident about doing the webs. Not because I don't think I could stitch them, but because the silver looked very silver and I didn't know if it looked too silver and it would ruin the entire look. So I spent about 40 minutes messaging people, asking for their advice and their opinions, and just obsessively looking through my hundreds of reference pictures trying to decide what to do. Ultimately, I have come to the decision that I'm going to do it anyway. And this was not an easy decision, but I realized that I am very early on in my cosplay sewing journey. I've only been sewing for about a year and a half now, which means it is inevitable at some point I will make a second version of this costume to upgrade it even further, because I already know how I would improve things that I've already done. This feels like one of those, I should do the webs on this one and I can learn from it, and then when I make my upgraded version like 7 years from now, it will be a masterpiece because I would have made all of my mistakes on this one. That is the logic I'm giving myself to take off the pressure that this might not work. But I really want the webs in the design, so we're committing. Side note, I've just received a message alerting me that the engineer coming to fix my oven is on his way. I will be going radio silent when he arrives because I am not going to talk on camera when there is a stranger in the house because that is awkward. I used pins to map out some star shapes to use as a starting point for stitching in the webs. Usually I would have done this with chalk, but you all saw what happened there. outer layers of the webs were fairly fun to put in. There was a nice rhythm to it. Unfortunately, the closest to the centre I got, the harder it was to manoeuvre such small movements, and I began to regret not putting the embroidery foot on. Granted, not enough to actually go get the embroidery foot and put it on, but the thought was there. Beautiful. Done the spider webs. I love them. I am so glad I decided to do them. I've got 2 on each arm and 1 on the front of the chest. They aren't perfect. I think they would definitely be better if I doubled over them all to make the lines thicker. I do not have enough silver thread to do that, and even if I had enough silver thread to do that, these were quite difficult to do, and I have zero faith in my ability to go over the exact same lines again. It would just turn into a massive mess. Put the sleeves to the side for a bit. It's finally time to move on to the multicolored velvet. My plan is to cut out the different patches of colour so then I can individually sew all those pieces onto the bodice to build up the multicolored, jagged, uneven shaped design that is on the bodice. Primarily aim for cutting out the darker shades of colour, as the bright ones are far too bright for what I need. My main goal going into it is to try and replicate the front above all else. Try and get roughly the same colours and roughly the same shapes in place on the front so I can try and replicate the stage bodice as much as possible. As for like the sides and the back, I'm pretty happy just to throw together whatever I've got. On that note, let's cut out some colours. The table is just filled with loads of silver thread offcuts. I feel like the opposite of Rumpelstiltskin. Having said all of that, all the different versions of the bodice all have different colour placements and shape sizes and stuff, so it really doesn't matter. I can just do whatever here. In case it wasn't abundantly clear by now, for this entire project, I have just been picking out my favourite element from many different versions and then just putting those to build my own custom version that's just a combination of all of my favourite bits across every single design. So it's not really an exact replica for any of them, it's just a little bit of all of them. Before adding the coloured velvet, I quickly pinned and machined on some black piping to separate the 2 areas of the bodice. Then came the velvet patchworking. To begin with, I was pretty picky with getting the same kind of colour placements as the version I was replicating, but as I went on, I got significantly less pedantic about it and just put whatever looked good down. Never tried this at home. I was there for ages. It took me days of continuous sewing to get all of these pieces on. I do love how it turned out, but I do need to go in with some paint and just darken the edges because you can see all the white rims, which I don't love, but it's pretty brightly coloured compared to the skirt anyway, so I was going to have to go in and darken it with paint later. Either way. I started a brand new day by finally assembling the sleeves and the collar piece, which I did end up hand stitching onto the bodice because with the boning in place it was far too difficult to manoeuvre around the machine now. I also attached a zip on the back, which went really well until I realised it was the wrong type of zip, and I so do not want to talk about it. I've been digging through my stash and I found these old black flower appliques. By using these to go on the bodice, then I can save myself a lot of time because I don't have to do the full beading work. I can just sew these on and then fill in some areas with beads to get the same effect, which is going to save me a lot of time. Bodice is coming along nicely. I've just pinned the bias tape on and it kind of feels like it sticks out like a sore thumb compared to the rest of it. So I've been thinking I might sew something over the top of the bias tape. I've already had a dig through the stash and I've got this thin lace, which I don't love because it feels a bit too flat and I feel like I want something with more texture. This lace, which is a little bit better, but it's still pretty flat. I do have the leftover velvet ribbon that I used for the strips across the centre of the bodice. Granted, we are straying from the design of the different stage costumes now. Each of them is so different anyway that at this point you just need to do whatever's gonna look best for what you're making. And for what I'm making, I feel like this can't be left plain.
After all that, I actually decided to take this lace and just cut a thinner strip off to put around the bottom on the bias tape, because this is actually the same one that I put on the neck, so it will match and it will hopefully make the whole thing feel a bit more cohesive and tied together.
Now moving on to the very finishing touches of the costume, I machined together 3 layers of leftover skirt ruffles to go onto the shoulders. I loved adding this element because it finally tied the 2 pieces together. I then moved on to giving the bodice a dark paint wash by mixing together acrylic paint, fabric medium and diluting it with enough water for the effect I wanted. The paint was really great because it not only hid the exposed edges of the fabric from the patchwork design, but also blended all of the colours together remarkably well so it all felt like one piece. I've only done a little bit of the painting, but already between this side of the velvet line and this side of the velvet line, you can see the immediate difference it has made and how much better that side is actually looking. I'm very glad I decided to do this because I almost chickened out. Which, after a few off-camera tasks like beading and stitching on a few tufts of spooky fabric, brings us to the results. And we are finally finished. This has been the longest video I have ever made. I don't know if that's true duration-wise, but in terms of working on the project, I started this after Halloween. I have only just finished it this week. We are now around the 20th of January, so I've spent a good 3 months working on this. It has been a big, intense make. I love it so much. I am so incredibly proud of it and genuinely kind of shocked at how it actually turned out. There were definitely mistakes. The zip on the back is probably the biggest one, but that was just me being genuinely stupid. I put on the kind of zip that you put on dresses or skirts in that it doesn't open at the bottom, which meant I put a zip on this thing and then I couldn't put the thing on. It was a whole thing. I basically just had to kind of break the zip off and we ended up closing it with safety pins to do the shoot. So at some point I need to sort out a fastening for the back because that was a mess. At some point I'm gonna cover that in the leftover fabric I have from the skirt so that it matches. And I'm also gonna make the cape that she has in the stage musical as well to add that on at some point too. Those will be later future editions because as much as I love this project, I really need a break from it. It's been intense. I would really, really genuinely prefer the makeup to look just a little bit better. So if anybody has any cosplay makeup recommendations, mainly I need a paint that stays on, so something I can put on my hands and then it won't get on everything I touch. I'm really out of breath. I'm not very well today. Everything's just wearing me out. I really hope you all enjoyed the results of this project as much as I did, especially as I made you all wait so long for this. My next project I'm actually really excited about. It's a collaboration with Lady Annabelle and I actually started it a couple of days ago. It's shaping up to be really good already, so I am looking forward to sharing this next one with you. So if you want to see some more of my projects and you want to see my upcoming collaboration with Lady Annabelle, don't forget to like and subscribe. Feel free to leave me a comment down below as well. I do need to catch up on my comments. This has consumed me so much the past couple of weeks that I have fallen behind, so I will be catching up on those as soon as I get this video up. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you all had fun and I will see you in my next video. In your face, silver spider webs. Green fabric with a black lace topping on. Topping. Stuffing our pins like always. Because if I did all these ruffles by hand, I would be doing this dress until New Year.